We've spent a lot of time in the past few months talking about the resurrection. We've talked a lot about the rapture. We've talked a lot about the tribulation, the great tribulation, the 7-year tribulation, Jacob's trouble, if you will. But we haven't spent a lot of time talking about what happens after the tribulation, what happens during the Millennium Kingdom, and then what happens after that. So we're going to spend a little bit more time doing that. And if you like this kind of thing, feel free to let me know in the comments and I can try and go a little bit deeper each time. Because I think a lot of times we spend most of our time during the day talking about things like, does Jesus loves me or doesn't he love me? Am I saved? Am I not saved? So if we can get past that, we can dive into some of the goodies that are in the Millennium Kingdom and afterwards. So again, if you like this kind of thing, subscribe, stick around a little bit. If you'll allow me a little bit of time, this will take a little bit of time to unpack this thing. But feel free to watch it again. Feel free to share it with your friends, family, talk about it, debate it, all this kind of good stuff. So without any further ado, let's begin. So I want to go to my little whiteboard here just to kind of give you a little snapshot of where we're at here. We're going to talk about, so I think the easiest thing to do is to just basically draw a diagram and basically just say, this is the tribulation. It's over. We have Armageddon. So I'll just spell this out here. So we have Armageddon. And then we'll just jump into Millennium Kingdom. Can't spell this morning. So we talk a lot about the tribulation, a lot about what's happening right now and all this kind of stuff. But sometimes people want to know what happens right here in this Millennium Kingdom. So this is what we're going to be focusing on in this video. So this is the Millennium. The Millennium Kingdom. One day I might do a PowerPoint presentation because that seems to be easier than drawing this out. So the Millennium Kingdom, as most people know, is for 1,000 years. All right. Most people get that. Let's go back to me. So basically, you have the tribulation. It's over. You have people that have refused the mark of the beast. And you have those that have not worshiped the devil. They've not worshiped the Antichrist. And they're still alive during the Millennium Kingdom. But not everyone is saved. Not everyone is saved during the Millennium Kingdom. This is what gets kind of interesting, because there are going to be pockets of people that are going to be living, go back to this here, that have basically survived. They've survived the tribulation. This is post-trib. And they've survived Armageddon. These are survivors, leftovers, if you will. Survivors. Remnants, people that are left over. They don't believe in Jesus Christ, but they do believe that the devil or the Antichrist was up to no good. So they're the people that are like, I don't know about you Christians. You guys are crazy. Crazy. I'm not believing in that religious garbage. I'm not wearing a mask. I'm not taking the jab. I'm not taking the MOB. None of that stuff. And I'm not going to church. I don't believe in any of that googly gook stuff. I'm just going to go and build myself a nice little home. I'm going to have myself some weapons. I'm going to have myself some cans of tuna forever, for thousands of years, as long as I need it. And I'm going to protect myself, and I'm going to protect my own. There will be those people that are still alive and manage to survive the tribulation. They also managed to survive Armageddon, which is Jesus Christ coming down on earth with his host, with his angels, and with his saints, which are us, with immortal bodies, new heavenly bodies. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then just go to some of my resurrection videos, where I believe the second that we die, we get a new resurrected body and we go straight to heaven. And there are people living in heaven for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And one day they'll be coming down to reign with Christ on earth. But that's after Jacob's trouble, because there's a little bit of purging going on with Israel and any of the nations that decide to come against Israel. They're going to get punished severely, but it starts at home. Israel gets punished first. Why? Because of all their iniquities. They never believed in Jesus Christ. They never believed that he is the Son of God, that he is the judge of the universe. God is the justifier, and he gave all judgment unto his Son. The only way to get saved is through Jesus Christ. So as a Christian today, the benefits of believing because we don't see is we get a new heavenly body. That is our reward. That is our crown. We get a new heavenly body. Why? Because it's from the second Adam. The second Adam is a quickening spirit, heavenly. The first Adam is earthy, from the earth. So we are now dead in Christ. We are raised with Christ, and we are seated in heavenly places, and we have a new heavenly body. We just don't see it just yet because we have this flesh. Once we die, we ditch this one, and we have a new immortal body, a new heavenly body that lives forever. You can go to heaven, you can come down to earth, especially after the tribulation, not right now, but when Christ comes down with his hosts, with his with all the saints, that's when we'll come down to earth. So what happens now with all these people that are like, I'm not taking the mark of the beast, I'm not believing that Jesus Christ is the Son of God? Well, they will eventually die. They'll be on the outskirts of Jerusalem, if you will, the remote areas of the world. These are the islands, if you will, the nations, most likely North America. People will be gathering there, and they will be the most secular, as in they still are able to function. They have their own rules, their own laws, all this kind of stuff, but it is separate from Jesus Christ. So they get to live, they get to survive. They're like us today. They only live to like 70, 80, 90, 100 years, and then they drop. And we'll talk about what happens to those people during the Millennium Kingdom, what happens to them after they die. That'll be in another video, but I want to stay within the Millennium Kingdom. So you got a remnant of people that didn't want anything to do with the mark of the beast or the devil. They never bowed down, they never worshiped, but they don't want anything to do with Christ. So there's pockets. There's probably millions of people around the world that are still alive, marrying, giving in marriage, all this kind of stuff, but they don't want anything to do with Christ. Okay. So now we have the Millennium Kingdom, and we have an area, and I'm going to go back to this here. So now we're in the Millennium Kingdom. So we're in the Millennium Kingdom here, and we have, this is basically Jerusalem. Jerusalem. And Christ is using this area to reign. So basically, I'm just going to draw a square. Oh, that's not even a square, is it? It's not a square. Let me draw a square. Like this, basically. So this is just a rough example. So basically, there's an angel in Zechariah that measured Jerusalem and then basically drew a border around Jerusalem like this. And then let's just say it's like this. What is this? This is a firewall. We've all heard of firewalls when it comes to cybersecurity and all this kind of stuff. So this is basically a firewall around Jerusalem. And I believe it's either going to be physical or it could be see-through, as in people can actually peer, they can get close to this wall and then look, and they can look inside the area of Jerusalem and see that there is a prosperous land, but they can't enter in for 1,000 years. The people that live inside Jerusalem can leave. They can come and go as they please, but there is an invisible barrier, an invisible protection, if you will, that is the fire of God that protects Jerusalem. Why? Because Jerusalem at this stage of the Millennium Kingdom is unwalled. So this is like a defense barrier, very similar to the Garden of Eden when I believe it was a cherub with a flaming fire that went back and forth to guard the way of Eden so that nobody can enter into Eden. This is the same kind of thing, and it's mentioned in Zechariah, where an angel will create a firewall around the inhabitants of Jerusalem. Why? Because Jesus Christ is reigning there for 1,000 years. There are no fenced cities. There are no bars. They're unwalled. They're unprotected. Why? Because Jesus is reigning with them, and the devil has been put into a bottomless pit for 1,000 years. So they are free to harvest crops and plant and grow things and build buildings. All kinds of stuff is going on in this area. And I drew it a square. It's going to most likely look like the physical area of when the Israelites, I should say, inhabited Canaan. There's now going to be an invisible barrier to protect the people that are living in this area. If it's a little bit bigger, not sure. It could quite possibly extend over on the other side of Jordan, where the half tribe of Manasseh was, the tribe of Reuben, and also the tribe of Gad was. Because we also know that Moab and Ammon and Edom actually escape from the throes, if you will, of the Antichrist. So they escape as well. So we know there are people that are living outside of Jerusalem that have actually escaped the clutches of the Antichrist. It's not everyone. But if you can survive, if you could not take the MOB or the jab or whatever is created during the Antichrist reign of 7 years, you'll be able to survive, but you'll live on the outskirts. All those people that avoided the mark of the beast and got beheaded, got executed, get to reign in here for 1,000 years in here, and they're not being touched or anything. They just live and they grow crops, they harvest wine, all kinds of stuff. There's green grass, there's trees growing, all this kind of stuff. It's beautiful. So now what happens to people that are outside? Well, like I said, we Christians will be also ruling as well. And there's also, obviously, you have the rule of the 10 or the 12 disciples who are judging the 12 tribes as well. They're basically any of the 12 tribes that come to them for rulings and all that kind of stuff. And then obviously we Christians probably will be overseeing cities outside of Jerusalem around the world as well. And in order for these nations to survive, they have to bring tribute to Jerusalem once in a while, maybe 2-3 times a year. If they don't, they get no rain. They don't get any rain, I should say. So it encourages people to come to Jerusalem to pay tribute, right? But so let's talk about now what goes on outside. Hopefully this is making sense to people. So those are the people there. So then there are still people dying outside of Jerusalem, and we'll talk about that in another video. But there is also going to be, like I said, there's going to be homes that are outside of Jerusalem. There's going to be populations, countries, nations that are ruling themselves without Christ. But what is happening is there is how else can you say this? There's basically a physical task force, if you will, police force, a self-sustaining police force that is in the shape of a rectangle, a scroll, if you will. So on one side, and this thing is going to be hovering all over the earth. It's just going to be, I don't know how fast this thing will travel, but it's got writing on one side, and I'll explain it. So this is basically a moving scroll that floats in the air and it goes all over the nations. So I don't know what the speed is, but I'll explain how this scroll works. On one side, the scroll will have basically a punishment against anyone that steals. So it's a punishment against the thief. And then on the other side is a punishment against anyone that swears falsely. Swears. What does that mean? Anyone that pretends that they are a follower of Christ and they are not. They're pretending. And anyone that steals, this thing will actually find that person. And anyone that swears falsely, basically lying and saying, oh yeah, we're a believer in the Messiah, Jesus Christ, give us tribute so that we can take it back to Jerusalem. So they're pretending that they are a servant of Jesus Christ. So the scroll is going through all the nations, and you could probably see it coming a mile away. It's like 20 cubits, so is that like 30 feet by 15 feet, 10 feet? It's a huge rectangle approaching, and it's basically it's self-fueled, if you will. This thing does not crash, it does not burn up, nothing like that. So I know it sounds weird, right? It sounds like science fiction. But let me just draw this out again here. So you have this huge scroll that's like 20 cubits by 10 cubits. And on one side is about thieves. Whoa. And the other side is about swearing falsely. So pretending. So what this thing does, we'll call it a scroll, if you will. Scroll. This is like a judgment. So this thing will float into a city, into a town, whether it's 5 feet above the ground, 10 feet or whatever. And if there is a thief in a home, it will find the thief and it will go inside the home and begin dismantling the home, whether that's vibrations, sonic frequencies, whatever it is. And this home will actually start to crumble and get destroyed. And this thief will have to flee. He won't have a home to live unless he repents and restores, gives back whatever he stole. And so this will force him to stop being a thief during the Millennium Kingdom. Why? Because his home will get destroyed. And if someone is pretending to be a follower of Christ, this scroll will enter into their home and will begin to destroy that home as well. So what does this do? This is like a self-maintaining police force. So meaning if you are robbing people during the Millennium Kingdom and you're one of those people that are like, I got my own guns, got my own ammo, I got my own food and all this stuff, and I'm going to go to my neighbor's place and I'm going to take his food. All of a sudden you'll hear this and this big 20 to 30 foot in height scroll by 10 feet comes into your home and starts vibrating so that your home actually crumbles and is destroyed. And you'll probably be able to hear it coming. And people will see this scroll going up and down streets, looking for thieves and looking for people that are swearing falsely. So it'll just take its time and go through each city. You might be thinking, oh, well, as soon as it leaves the city and starts heading to another area, I can go back to stealing again. Do you not think that people will not turn you in for that and basically stay away from you? Why? Because your home is going to be destroyed. You're going to be exposed. And if you're pretending to be a follower, you're lying for gain, you're going to be found out. All of a sudden you're like, yeah, I'm a follower, give me some money. I'll take it to the proper authorities, if you will. Give me your money. All of a sudden you hear this enter into your home, and because you swore falsely, your home starts to get destroyed. So if that isn't an incentive to not lie, cheat, and steal, I don't know what is, but this is going on during the Millennium Kingdom. After the Millennium Kingdom, this Satan is let loose. And where is he going? He's going to all these nations that are on the outskirts that never wanted anything to do with Jerusalem, anything to do with Christ. And he's going to put a little voice in someone's head that says, this is a perfect time to attack Jerusalem. There's no walls. There's no fenced cities. They have no bars, nothing. They're at peace. And there will be nations around Jerusalem that will be saying to Gog of Magog, why are you coming here? You're coming here to steal, to kill, destroy. You're coming here to take all the gold from Jerusalem. Why? Because it's profitable. It's profitable. All the nations are bringing tributes to Jerusalem so that they can have food at their home, so that they can have rain. Because if they don't, one city could get rain and the city next to them may not get rain if they don't pay tribute. So there's incentive to bring all their first fruits, if you will, to Jerusalem as a tribute. If they don't, they're not going to survive the winter. They're not going to make it. And we'll talk about what happens to people that actually die. It'll be a rare thing for someone that is living 100 years that is a sinner. It'll be rare. Why? Because they'll get found out pretty quick. just like it'll be rare that a child dies at 100 years old. And again, we're not saying that a child stays as an infant for 100 years. But what we're saying is it's a rare occurrence that people would die in the Millennium Kingdom 100 years. Just doesn't happen. It's so rare. And that someone that would live 100 years in sin, that's rare. They would get judged pretty quick. So it's not going to happen inside the Millennium Kingdom. That's just a way of saying it. It's just an expression saying it would be weird to have a child die at 100, and it's weird to have someone that is a sinner for 100 years. But outside the Millennium Kingdom, people are dying. They're probably just being corrected a little bit more because, again, Jesus's kingdom, all his servants are actually ruling around the earth as well, not just in Jerusalem. So they'll be put in charge of cities, areas, all this kind of stuff, probably on the outskirts of Jerusalem leading outwards. Don't know how far that covers, but there will still be rogue nations that don't pay attention to anything. They want to do their own thing. And these are the nations that are going to be convinced by the devil to come and attack Jerusalem. And we'll be all living there. And then when they come near, a fire will come down from heaven and consume all those nations that are coming against Jerusalem. So there's a huge firewall around Jerusalem that protects the city. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to fight these armies. They'll actually turn on each other and end up killing each other. They'll probably have nuclear armament, who knows what. But the remote isles that funded this regime, Gog of Magog, the isles, most likely North America, will get consumed by fire as well. Off in the distance, they'll get burnt up. So if you have that type of a rebellious spirit where you're like, I don't believe in any of that Christian garbage. I don't want anything to do with God. I don't want anything to do with Christ. I'm doing my own thing. Well, one day you're going to have to answer to that. Because of God's mercy, he is allowing people to live. And during the Millennium Kingdom, the bonus is there are people that actually get to live in there. And everything they touch turns to gold, basically. And it becomes envious to other nations around them that are like looking in going, man, I want a piece of that. I don't want to believe in Jesus. I don't care about that stuff, but I want what they have. I want the technology that they have, because look at their crops. We have to work so hard, and we have to bring tribute. We have to send people to bring tribute to Jerusalem in order for us to survive, to get rain. We don't like that anymore. We don't like being ruled with an iron fist. So instead, we're going to join forces with this leader, Gog from Magog, and we're going to join him. And we're going to attack Jerusalem when they least expect it, because they've been here for 1,000 years. They're flourishing, and we're buying all their food from them. Everything they touch is turning to gold. We're envious of what they have. And we're going to take everything that we can. We're going to take spoils. We're going to go into their homes. We're going to take all their stuff. And when they get close to Jerusalem, they get consumed by fire. They turn on each other and all kinds of stuff. And then what happens after that is these weapons are being consumed for 7 years. So that tells me there's some kind of radiation happening where these are probably nuclear weapons, who knows what. But then afterwards, all the house of Israel comes out after the 7 years, when the fires actually die down, and they actually take all the bodies and throw them into a valley and basically bury them there in an isolation area. Why? Because those bodies are probably contaminated with plutonium and all kinds of stuff. So they have to hire professionals that will take care of these bodies and remove them And it gets to a point that when passengers are going by, they'll not only see that valley, but they'll also see bodies that are left. And maybe they're coming on some kind of transportation, a passenger train or something. And they see, okay, over in this quadrant, there's still a couple of bodies there. So they put a sign, they let people know, hey, there's still some bodies that need to be removed. And then buriers, that'll be their occupation, professionals, if you will go and remove those bodies to another area where all the people that came in this battle are being buried. They're being buried there. So that takes place over a period of 7 months. So that's kind of what happens during the Millennium Kingdom. This encourages people to bring tribute to Jerusalem during the 1,000-year millennium. People will still die. And again, I'll make another video about what happens. That's basically the Great White Throne Judgment, where all the dead are raised and they're judged according to the works that they've done, all this kind of stuff. We're not there because the benefit of being a Christian today is you get a new immortal body. You get a body that lives forever and will be with Christ forever, for all eternity. And there's stuff for us to do during the Millennium Kingdom. We're in heaven when we're in heaven during the tribulation. Don't think we're not going to be trained as well, so that when we come down in the battle of Armageddon, we got to take care of the Antichrist and the false prophet. They're the first ones to go, and they get tossed into the lake of fire. Then the serpent gets locked up for 1,000 years, and there's going to be peace all over the world. There's not going to be armies fighting each other, none of that stuff. Partially because we're going to be around patrolling, and you're also going to have that moving scroll that's going to be consuming thieves, because that'll be the biggest thing. The biggest issue around the world is people might perhaps be envious and want to steal from their neighbor, and this will discourage them from doing that. And if you're wondering where this is found, I'm just going to read from Zechariah about the vision of the flying scroll, and then I'll wrap this up. So hopefully you got something out of this. This is Zechariah chapter 5. And then I turned and lifted mine eyes and looked, and behold, a flying roll. And he said unto me, what seest thou? And I answered, I see a flying roll. The length thereof is 20 cubits, and the breadth thereof 10 cubits. Then said he unto me, this is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. For everyone that stealeth shall be cut off as on this side according to it, so on one side of the scroll, and everyone that sweareth shall be cut off as on that side according to it. I will bring it forth, says the Lord of hosts, and it shall enter into the house of the thief, and into the house of him that sweareth falsely by my name, and it shall remain in the midst of his house, and shall consume it with the timber thereof and the stones thereof. So that is what the flying scroll is for. Anyone that is a thief on the face of the planet, and anyone that is swearing falsely, using God's name falsely, their home will be destroyed and they'll have to move somewhere else. So you can only do that so many times before people are going to say, I don't want you in my home. I don't want the thief in my home. Because if a thief comes into my home, I lose my home. There you go. So if you like this kind of thing, if you've not heard this before, give me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments. I can go on and on and on about this stuff, but I think most people are kind of stuck in the realm of, does Jesus love me still? Does he still love me? I don't feel like I can hear Jesus anymore. I don't understand. I don't hear him. Like, this is like grade one. I'm kind of I'm not trying to make fun of new Christians or anything like this, or people that are like struggling with sin or whatever it is. I'm not trying to make fun. That's just my sarcastic voice, because sometimes we cause more problems than we solve when we think this way, when we're like, man, I don't know why the Lord isn't speaking to me, but yet I don't read the Bible. And I haven't read the Bible for months. So I don't know why God doesn't talk to me. I don't know why I can't hear his voice. It's weird. It's confusing to me. I don't understand it. I don't pray. I don't read his word. I don't want to hang out with believers. I don't want to go to Bible study. I don't want to go to church. I don't understand. Huh. It's kind of weird. That to me is grade 1 Christianity. You're saved, but you don't know anything. You're just kind of dumb. You're like a mute. Can't speak. You can't share your knowledge with anyone. Anyways, yeah, so that's it. If you like this kind of thing, feel free to subscribe. Feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments. And then, as always, let me know where you're watching this video from. I am getting ready to take off to church. So you guys have an awesome day. See you later. Bye.